Let's start with this Prince Harry news and about this new podcast he's appeared on. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I think this is going to dominate the headlines tomorrow, I have to say. So just before I came to chat to you, Joe, a podcast dropped in the US called The Armchair Expert, and it's basically Harry in conversation on mental health issues on the internet. But in it, he makes some more quite incendiary remarks about himself, his life as a member of the royal family, why he wanted out. He talks about how his own drug use was fueled by his childhood experiences. He also talks about parenting he received. And he says he's not critical, but actually he is quite critical of the parenting he received, particularly from the Prince of Wales, which he said was fueled by his own childhood experiences, which were not good, and that he as a parent wanted to break the cycle of this himself when it came to Archie and his future daughter. So again, it's more confessional stuff that I think will not go down well with Buckingham Palace.
What I don't understand, Rebecca, is my understanding was when the Sussexes sat down with Oprah for that explosive interview, that was supposed to draw a line under any more private and public airings of private details. That was it. That was the big thing and that was going to stop them talking. So what is this?
I mean, I suppose that although I say it's incendiary, I mean, obviously there were some particularly explosive parts of the Oprah interview talking about, Meghan being made cry by Kate and, how his father supposedly cut him off. So, it's not kind of incendiary in that way. But I think in talking about his emotions, dressing it up as analysis, he is throwing yet more of a spotlight, knowingly or unknowingly, on a very, private family matters. So I think this will, yet again be very, very uncomfortable listening for Buckingham Palace. They want to draw a line on the things and wish the Sussexes well in their new life. But if in their new life they're constantly harking back to their old one, I don't see how things can really move on properly for them.
And do you know if the palace would have had any advance warning about this podcast dropping seemingly out of thin air?
No, they didn't. They're only just reading it now as everybody else is. So, there's a lot for them to digest this afternoon. And I would make the point that, as this is happening, members of the royal family today are going about doing the kind of very low-key but really important unsung work. We've got Prince of Wales at a breast care unit. We've got William and Kate in Wolverhampton slogging their way around doing a number of engagements to publicise Mental Health Awareness Week. And of course, yet again, what they're doing is going to be knocked off the front pages by what Harry has to say about his experience of being a member of the royal family.
We will be back with Rebecca in just a moment, but let's head to our panel this week. Historian and writer Dr. Tessa Dunlop is here alongside the Mail's Saturday Diary editor Richard Eden. Welcome to you both. Tess, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that Harry has been at all fair to his family with this latest revelation on this podcast?
When it comes to family matters, are any of us ever fair?
Well, we're not also publicly fair or unfair.
He was effectively booted out of an institution that also happened to double up as his family. He lost his royal titles, he lost that access to cash that he was used to having, and he has to go and make his own way. He's a middle-ranking kind of bloke. If you stood him in a line with some other blokes, you'd think, there's an average kind of bloke. So how does he make his money? How does he get...
He'd be so hurt to hear that from you, Tessa.
I'm sorry.
And you're one of his fans.
I think that's okay to be, just like regular, like Richard or like me, does anybody want us on their major popping podcast? No. Why do they want Harry? They want Harry because of whence he's come, because of his family, his heritage, because he's attached to the biggest brand on the planet.
Yeah. I'm just very sad about this podcast. I mean, we've had so many stories since the explosive Oprah interview that Harry and Meghan felt some regret, that they felt perhaps they'd gone too far. We had all this string of stories, and here we are again. Prince Harry. I mean, imagine how Charles will feel when he hears this. Attacking his parenting and everything about the institution all over again. It seems like he can't let it lie. It's just, and every week brings a new opportunity to attack the royal family. I'm almost speechless.
You're not, Richard. You're not. Have you ever been in the middle of a divorced couple, for instance? Do you ever manage to heel it up and wrap it into a neat, tight bow after one
But I will
bloodletting? No.
say to you what I've asked of Rebecca. The understanding was that after this big Oprah interview that millions of people have watched, that was going to draw a line under, and yet here we are again. So the cynic in me would say it's good commercial business to keep going out there and talking about the institution and the family.
It is very good commercial business, and also I think probably Harry is quite enjoying the attention. He's away from stuffy old England and judgmental elderly relatives who he thinks clearly are hypocritical. We'll come on to one of them shortly. And he's thriving.
He keeps harking back to all this misery of his past. Do you think he's thriving?
Well, we had Harry's sort of journalistic friend, Bryony Gordon, writing this week about how Harry had found his spiritual home in California. And this podcast does seem to reflect that. So,
does that annoy you? What's so wrong with that?
No, nothing wrong at all. But I think there is a temptation. We saw that when he was at the rock concert at the charity, the Vax event last week, that Harry did seem to really enjoy that attention, and maybe, you know, each time he's coming up with sort of new ways to criticise the royal family, and that's the problem. That's what he's got.
It's an absolute quagmire. You're fine if you're in line for the throne, if you're a William or a Charles or a Kate. You've got clearly defined roles. The ones on the outside who are entitled, have a high expectation of their standard of living, and Harry does. How do they make that living?
That's all we have for you on our YouTube show. But to see the rest of this episode, including some more fascinating royal revelations, head to www.mailplus.co.uk/royals or click the link on screen now.